how'd you move into comics?
Well, comic books was actually first before hip hop.
Mm.
And, I guess a lot of people from New York can relate to this. Comic books, and if you look at the Wu-Tang Kung Fu movies, we're all products of pop culture. So for me as a kid growing up, I grew up in Hollis, Queens, New York, which was like a lower suburban middle class area. It wasn't Brooklyn, it wasn't the Bronx, it wasn't Manhattan, it was Queens. You know what I'm saying? But at the time, everybody thought Queens was soft. But we had the elements that Harlem. I'm not Harlem now. It's been a renaissance. I'm talking about back in the day when it was hell up in Harlem, Superfly, and the black exploitation era and stuff
Mhm.
like that. So we had the pimps and the pushers and the gangbangers and the drug dealers and the stick-up kids and the house robbers. We had all of those elements, but mostly growing up in Queens, it was we had houses, fences, backyards, stuff that the Bronx, especially in the 70s didn't have. So everybody thought we was soft, you know what I'm saying? But, it was kind of true. It wasn't, we just didn't have as many criminals. You know what I'm saying? We didn't have as much riffraff, but our riffraff was centered to the avenues and to the 25th Street, like we rapped on Adidas. Standing on 25th Street was like being on 125th Street in Harlem. But I went to Catholic school my whole life, so the only time I saw people that was educated and kind of geeky and nerdy, but was badass, was in the comic books. So I related to Peter Parker, I related to Tony Starks, I related to Reed Richards, so I related to Batman and stuff like that, because they were smart, educated guys. Superman, ho hum, awkward and clumsy as Clark Kent, but he turned into Superman and kicked your butt. So for me, when I was growing up, my imagination was all comic books. So that was from kindergarten to like seventh grade. And then in seventh grade, this dude named Billy Morris, he came into the schoolyard, and this was a Catholic school. And he had the little duffel bag, the little duffel bags with the school name on it. And he
Mhm.
had one of those flat, this was before boom boxes and all that. And he had this flat little tape recorder, the kind that when you push eject, it pop up and you slide the tape in. Back in the days, remember, Sammy, we had those in learning school. At school, they had the little flat tape recorders and stuff like that. So he calls us over and he says, yo, check this out. And he pushes a button and that thing says, doom, deck, doom, doom, deck, doom, doom, deck, doom. And then a voice goes, when you mess around in New York town, you go down with the disco Chiba clown. You go down, go down, go down. You just keep the pep in your step. You don't stop till you get on the mountain top. And when you reach the top, you reach the peak. That's when you hear Eddie Chiba speak, and it stopped. It was like a minute and 30 seconds. And we was like, yo, what the hell? Yo, do that again. We stood there for like 4 hours just listening to what I didn't know what it was. We just listened to whatever that was on that tape over and over and over again. And I didn't know it was rap. I didn't know it was hip hop. But the way it sounded, the way it felt, like it identified with every cell in my body. And that was my first time hearing this hip hop rap thing, right? But I still didn't know what it was. It wasn't until this was the last day of school, 1978. So that summer, I started noticing the block parties. You know what I'm saying? I started hearing the block parties. So I put two and two together. The thing that was on tape is what they do at the block parties in the park. But I still didn't care about that. So now we get into 79 and Rapper's Delight drops, right? So the only thing I cared about on Rapper's Delight, because I was a kid in the comic books, was the Superman rhyme. You know what I'm saying? Grandmaster Cat, well, Big Bang Hank, but Big Bang Hank was saying Grandmaster Cat Superman rhyme. So when I heard Rappers Delight, I was like, oh shoot, they're talking about superheroes and stuff. Because I had like a billion Marvel comic books collected. Like I was the man. All I did was read, collect, and draw comic books, read, collect, and draw comic books. So I hear this rap thing that Billy Morris played for me a year earlier, and the dude's on this record talking about Superman. So I'm like, yo, Yo, so it happened. So my brother brings Rappers Delight home because he was older than me. So when he would leave the house, I would go to the basement, play Rappers Delight. I listened to it over 3 times, so I knew the record from start to end. Now, I still didn't know what I was doing. So here's what happened. This is what blew my mind. A week later, my brother comes home with this red labeled record that was like the same size as the Rappers Delight one, but it didn't look as appealing. Rappers Delight, remember the Sugar Hill label? It was light blue with the rainbow. It was very appealing. You know what I'm saying?
Mm-hmm.
So it was like a comic book to me, spinning on the turntable and a guy rhyming about Superman. That's all I cared about. So a couple of weeks later, my brother brings home this red label record that said Enjoy. And it said Grandmaster Flash and the Furious Five. He put the needle on that, it was a whole nother level. Because Rappers Delight was more like the Eddie Chiba thing I heard. Hip hop, to hibby dibby, hip hop, you don't stop, or rock it to the bang bang. You know, that was my first introduction to it. And I was like, yeah, that's that thing that they do in the park with the Eddie Chiba thing. I didn't know there was this whole other level of whatever that was on that tape that's now on records. My brother put the needle on this thing, Sim, and this thing said, it was a party night, everybody was breaking, the highs was screaming, and the bass was shaking, and it won't be long till everybody knowing that Flash is on the B-box going. And I was like, oh, what the? I was like, oh, shit. And then that thing said, Sha-na-na. And then a voice said, Italian, Caucasian, Japanese, Spanish, Indian, Negro, Vietnamese, MC, disc jockeys, y'all, fly kids for the young ladies. Introducing the crew, you gotta see to believe. We're 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 MCs. Right then and then, I was like, oh, give me a pen, give me a pen. So for me, my appeal to hip hop was you can create this alter ego. Like Spider-Man had Peter Parker, Tony Stark's had Iron Man, Dr. Bruce Banner was the Hulk. You know what I'm saying? So I was like, Daryl McDaniels, Daryl McDaniels, the initials of my name is DMC, I'm gonna become the devastating mic controller DMC. So it was comic books which gave me the foundation of presentation, representation, and presence in this world. But it was hip hop that allowed me to express it. And it wasn't showbiz. I ain't care nothing about making records. I was like, I'm going to be the most powerful entity in the hip hop universe. So to make a long story short, it was just all make believe to me. I didn't know all of this shit was going to come true for real.
Wow. Yeah, I mean, that's
It's crazy.
It's crazy because, when you talk about, hip hop and everything that entails hip hop,
Mm-hmm.
you know what I'm saying? Most people don't think about comics, but
No.
the way that you broke it down,
Yes.
yeah.
Why do you
know what I'm
think
saying?
the Wu-Tang and Kung Fu movies and, Tony Stark's and Iron Man, if it wasn't for comic books and Kung Fu movies and TV shows and the cartoons he was reading, they gave us personalities. And the reason why I'm saying all of that, it was a creative presentation of, if it wasn't who we were or who you are, it's about what you wanted to be. You know what I'm saying? So let's talk about the graffiti writers. The graffiti writers created works of art. So when you was looking at those trends, comics, but no, the way that you broke, when you look at the graffiti, it was like the comic book came off the page. When you look at the MC and the DJ and the breakdancer, it was like these superheroes came to life. It was very colorful. It was vivid. It was storytellers. So that's what it was for me. So it was the comic books that prepared me to be successful in hip hop. You know what I'm saying? Mild-mannered Catholic school kid Daryl McDaniels transforms into the mighty king of rock. And the comic books was teaching me how to survive in this crazy world that I lived in. Like those comic books wasn't make-believe to me because Stan Lee, rest in peace, Stan Lee, he was brilliant. DC was cool. Batman, Superman, Wonder Woman, The Flash was one of my favorite books to read and draw. But Metropolis and Gotham was fictional. Metropolis and Gotham wanted to be New York City. Stan Lee was smart. He put the superheroes really in New York City. So when I opened up a comic book, I saw the city of New York City as a kid and all through my teenage life that I couldn't go there yet. I wasn't going nowhere yet. So I saw 42nd Street. I saw the Lower East Side. I saw Hell's Kitchen. I saw Fifth Avenue. I saw Park Avenue. I saw the Roosevelt Island tram. You know, Spider-Man lived in Queens. I live in Queens. So it wasn't make believe to me. So when this thing called hip hop came over the bridge, everybody else was busy trying to be the best MC and the best rapper. My thing was I'm being like the Hulk, Thor, Iron Man, the Black Panther all combined in one. I come here to, you know, I ain't gonna kill you. I'm gonna cut the head off the devil and throw it at your ass. That's how bad I am. So it was just all this imagination thing. And that's all it was in the beginning. So I just started writing rhymes to tell stories about who Daryl wanted to be. And once I started putting it on records, a lot of that stuff came true.
Yeah, man. So the comic books, you know, what kind of stories do you put in the comic books?
The comic books is everything that's me now. It's Daryl McDaniels, but
Hmm.
it's an alternate universe. Now, the comic book came about like this. 4 years ago, I went up to Atlantic Records for a music meeting. I had a friend of mine, my manager's brother, was shopping this artist, and he came. I mean, he was like, "Yo, D man, I don't ever ask you to do stuff for me, but I need to get a meeting up at some of these labels. Now, if I call, I'm never getting a meeting. They ain't even gonna pick up the phone if I call. It's almost like they can see through the phone that it's me, so they ain't even gonna pick up the phone. But if you call, you could probably get a meeting in a week or two or whatever." So I was like, "Yeah, I don't usually do this. I'll do it for you because I'm a nice guy." So I call up Warner Brothers, Atlantic Records in New York City. I'm like, "Yo, hello, how you doing? This is DMC. Can I meet with somebody about some music?" You know what I'm saying? I'm not like no manager, CEO. Like I rap the mic. I don't know how to do all this music business stuff. Just give me the mic and turn them speakers on. So they was like, "Who is this? Is this DMC?" And I'm like, "Yeah, DMC of Run DMC. Yeah, that's me. You know, to walk this way. Hold on, come back, Mr. McDaniels. You can come up right now." And I'm like, "Whoa, shit! My name got shit. My name could get me in places." So, make a long story short, I walk up in Atlantic Records, and I sit down. I met this young man named Riggs Morales. Riggs Morales was Eminem's right hand man over at Shady Records for the rise of the whole Eminem empire. Him and Paul Rosenberg and them cats. And Eminem, big shout out to Eminem, by the way. He's a geek and a nerd just like me. He loves comic books. He probably got Spider-Man toilet paper in his bathroom.
I think I
So
seen a documentary. I think he used to draw comics.
yeah, he's definitely
Yeah.
in the comic books. So I sit down with Riggs, and Riggs goes, "Yo," and he used these words. He says, "Yo, I'm usually very professional. I usually don't fan out." But he said, "Yo, DMC, you was like my superhero. The way you look, the way you sound." And it's funny, a lot of the people that's in the comic books, when they go back and listen to all my records, they see that there was seeds and Easter eggs planted there. So me and Riggs, we sat there. We didn't talk about music. We thought hip hop was the only thing that we had in common. We sat there and we talked about comic books for like 3 hours. And I told him about my love for Marvel comic books and how I used to draw everything from Batman to Spider-Man. And, you know, Stan Lee was like a god to me and whatever, whatever. And he was just like blown away by all this information. But he was even more blown away because he related to some of the comic book stuff even more than the hip hop stuff. So he goes, "Yo, you should do a comic book." And I go, "Nah, I don't want to do a comic book." And he goes, "Why not?" And I said, "Because I don't want to be another rapper. I don't want to disappoint my fellow geeks and nerds thinking just because I'm a rapper with a couple of hit records, I could do everything. Because this comic book is the comic book culture is just as sacred as the hip hop culture." So Riggs goes, "Nah, man, you ain't doing the comic books as DMC the celebrity. You doing the comic book as a little boy DMC who loved comic books even before hip hop." And then he had asked me, he said, "Yo, D, what would you have been doing if you never made a record and you know, never was a member of Run DMC?" And I was like, "Wow, shit, I don't know." I was like, "I don't know. I have no idea." So the only thing that I knew I could possibly do when I got out of high school and I made it to St. John's University, I was like, I'm a smart kid, so I could have been a teacher. So Rich was like, "Yo, that's it. You're going to be a teacher who discovers that he has superpowers. So the comic book is me, DMC, everything about me, except I never meet Run, I never meet Jay, I don't become a rapper because the rapping superhero, I'll beat you and defeat you when I meet you. That's corny. No, don't do that. In my comic book, it's hip hop, it's rock and roll, it's punk rock, it's golf, it's voodoo, it's monsters, it's vampires, it's magic. Everything possible that exists in our world and in my real life is in the comic book, except that it's not DMC the rapper. I graduate from St. John's University. I become a teacher and I discover I have superpowers. Because when I was younger, I discovered that I had these rhyme writing powers, and then Run came along and said, "Yo, D, I'm gonna put you in the group." So the comic book is me, Daryl McDaniels, but it's a whole different universe. It's not me, DMC the rapper.